All right, we're getting ready to go live. Okay. Louisiana, Florida Parishes history and Americans history. What are some of the stories? Who are some of the people? What is unique about those stories and people? Let's find out. This live stream Zoom session will explore the history of African Americans in the Louisiana, Florida parishes. On the third Tuesday of each month at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, I will choose a different topic and invite special guests to explore the rich history of African Americans in the Louisiana, Florida parishes. Good evening, and thank you for joining me this afternoon. This live stream Zoom session will explore the history of African Americans in the Florida parishes. We will discuss different topics and invite special guests who have explored or want to explore the rich history, the culture, the food, and music of the people of Florida parishes. African Americans have rich history both in Louisiana, Florida parishes and the American history. What are some of the stories? Who are some of the people? Let's find out. I am so excited to introduce my guest who I met about a month ago now, um, just online discussing her rich history in the Florida parishes. Well, we all know, if you don't know, let me tell you, Louisiana, Florida parishes consist of 8 parishes. And let me name them for you: East Baton Rouge Parish, East Feliciana Parish, Livingston Parish, St. Helena Parish, St. Tammany Parish, Tangipahoa Parish, Washington Parish, and West Feliciana Parish. My special guest tonight, Lynn Dosty, has a rich history that is connected to East Feliciana. So let me just welcome my special guest. Hi, Lynn. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Harrell. Thank you for having me.
I am excited. I just feel like I've been knowing you all my life. But anyway, I'm just excited that you are sharing your history from the East Feliciana Parish with me.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Then I have a couple of questions that I outlined for you that would help us to get to know you somewhat better. How long have you been researching your family history?
I have been actively researching for 3 years now. Started at about 2019, doing an ancestry test and started from there.
Really? It's been exciting, huh?
Mm-hmm. It
How,
has been, I tell you.
how did you get started?
Well, what started me on the ancestry path was my grandmother. I inherited the original cabinet card photos of my ancestors dating back to the mid to late 1800s and early 1900s, along with original documents, World War One discharge papers, and even 100-year-old midwife receipt of my grandmother's birth. So that started me on this path. I wanted to put a story to the pictures, to bring their legacy alive.
Mhm.
Yes.
Wow. What family members played a major role in your research?
Well, first, I would have to say definitely my grandmother, Mildred Mitchell. Uh, Mildred Mitchell Keller. She married my grandfather, George Keller. She was the original keeper of records, and she kept everything. She brought them from New Orleans to California where they were
Excuse me,
preserved.
Lynn. The sun is shining right in on your face.
Let's see if I can
If you,
change.
all right, that's a lot better because we want to see your pretty face. All
Oh,
right.
okay, sister, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So it was my grandmother who got me off to this journey because she was the original keeper of records. And she preserved the records in her California home. They all originated from New Orleans, and they were preserved for many years in
Mhm.
her den, in her California home. And so she was one of them. And another one was my great great grandmother, Natalie Decoding. She was the matriarch of the family. You may see a picture of her featured here
Uh-huh.
behind my back.
Your
She,
ancestors on your back. I love it. I love it.
as they inspire me to keep moving and pressing, and that's just why I place them there, to give me that strength and that courage as I sit here and
Yes,
do my research and direct me on which way to go. And they have not failed me yet.
that is wonderful. Through what family lines are you connected to the East Feliciana Parish?
Oh, my roots run really deep in East Feliciana. I have Keller,
Mm-hmm.
Badies, Parker, Douglas, Ross, and Butler,
Oh, all in East Feliciana.
all in East Feliciana.
That's a lot of family history there.
Yes, a lot of family history.
How did you learn about myself, should I say? How did you learn of my work and nurturing our roots?
Well, for the past 2 years, I've been sitting at your feet as well as Karen Roll
Mhm.
and just listening in on those topics that are really beneficial in my research. And one of them that really grabbed my eye was when you guys did the one on the midwives, because here I have a 102-year-old midwife receipt. So I wanted to learn about Eliza Benton. What
Mhm.
were the midwives' practices? Who was it that brought my grandmother into this world and preserved her life? Because a lot of women lost their lives during childbirth. But she not only preserved my grandmother's life, my great grandmother as well. So I wanted to learn about the midwives, and I wouldn't have learned otherwise unless I wasn't listening to a live episode with you and Karen.
Well, that's why we do it. We do it to educate people, not only to educate, but to have, we like to invite special guests on to come on and share their family history and photographs like you are doing and documents. So that's wonderful. We thank you for following us as well. Could you tell me how that my assistants help you find records in East Feliciana that would have been very challenging had you not seek someone to help you?
Well, as I said, I've been working on my records for 3 years, but I had no idea how to research East Feliciana. So after watching a recent episode on West Feliciana with you
Mhm.
and Gaynell, I learned when it was developed back in the 1800s and how it was split into two parishes, West and East.
Mhm.
And after that episode, I really wanted to reach out to you and figure out how can I get started? Because in New Orleans, I had my free people of color who are well documented, but
Mhm.
I did not know how to go into East Feliciana and research there. So that's how I got started there.
Was that your first time going to East Feliciana to research?
Absolutely. I haven't been to New Orleans since I was a young girl
Oh,
in my
really?
early 20s. Yes, I've been once when I was in my early 20s and haven't been back since. However, East Feliciana was a place that I was drawn to where I just had to get there because I knew there I can reach those that were possibly enslaved. And so
Mhm.
my heart has been drawn there.
Wow. Now let's talk about some of the places that I took you around to. Where did you really? I want you to tell us. What were some of the places?
Oh boy, just taking the ride was so
Oh.
beautiful and so spiritual. It was really
Mm-hmm.
surreal.
Mm-hmm.
Driving those roads, those 2-lane highways, just learning about, seeing how far they had to trek from East Feliciana. Then they stopped in Kenner for a few years and then on up to New Orleans. And just seeing the distance they had to go. And just to, the beautiful open scenery and farmlands. It was just beautiful. But our first stop was the clerk of the court. And there I was able to retrieve 56 documents.
Oh, that's a lot of documents.
That's a lot of documents. And some people may question
One for one trip.
for one trip.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of documents. And what was important prior to me arriving in Louisiana, Dr. Harrell had me pull the volume number and the page number of the death records from the Louisiana State Archives. But some of them just was not listed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I arrived in East Feliciana, I brought the face sheet of the family with me. I sat down, I familiarized myself with the tree and the siblings and the confirmed, verified grandparents. And once we opened those books, it opened up a can of worms. We really could have left with way more documents because I found that many relatives. It confirmed marriages, maiden names, date of births, where the family originated from before they arrived in Louisiana. It opened up a lot of doors.
I was so happy for you, but I was really happy. Let me tell you, I found this succession record. And when I came across this succession record, I said, oh, I can't wait to share this with Lynn. Lynn, I was saying, if she only knew what I have found, you just don't know.
Yes.
Because I said, Lynn, I have to share. You said, wait a minute. My legs will not hold me up yet. Just hold it.
Yes. She had it up on the screen and she said, Lynn, I have a succession. I could barely walk over my body. It was such a surreal experience. And then I looked, and let me tell you what I discovered. I knew that Crit Badies Sr. was my third great grandfather, who had Crit Badies Jr., who had my grandmother, my great grandmother, Julia Badies, who had my grandfather, George Keller, who had my dad, who had me. I knew that. But for Dr. Harrell to find this succession that lists all of my third great grandparents' children, 13 in total,
And
9
it was
girls.
married to, the names
Yes.
of their children. That was very helpful for you.
Yes, it was very helpful in building out my tree. So now I come home and I'm able to use that succession to build out that tree. And it was amazing. But not only that, in the succession, we learned that they owned 84 acres of land.
That
And
was a great finding.
that was a great find. And not only that, the mortgage was paid off.
Yes, yes.
So 84 acres. And they later sold the land. It was split between the children and they sold it. But now finding it, Dr. Harrell finding this succession allowed me, when I take my next trip, I can go back and I can visit this land. I can walk the grounds they walked and that they tilled and that they purchased. So I'm really looking forward to that.
And I can say this, well, the next question is, are you satisfied with your findings, your research, and with the smile on your beautiful face? It just tells a story. You're satisfied.
Absolutely, I'm satisfied. I could not have did this without Dr. Harrell. I mean, I knew I was coming to discover something, but to leave with that many documents and that many marriage certificates, that was amazing because it gave me maiden names.
Right.
Yes, and the witnesses are important on the marriage certificate because it confirms so much as well.
Lynn, before we get into the PowerPoint presentation, most people who may not understand this is a spiritual journey.
Mm.
It's hard to explain, but let me say it in your words. This is what you said to me. You said explaining this or sharing this with someone who may not be involved in research, it's like talking a different language,
Yes.
but speaking English.
Yes.
I heard you loud and clear.
It's like speaking a foreign language. It was so spiritual.
Yes, it
I
was.
mean, and it stayed with me. It's still with me
Of course.
throughout the journey. And I remember awakening that next day. I hadn't even had a chance to really look at the documents because when I dive into them, I want to emerge into them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I wanted to take me back to
mm-hmm.
that time and to see their signatures. And, it's just a very spiritual journey. But you're right. If you're not into finding out about your history, you wouldn't understand our
Will understand.
language.
They wouldn't, especially the spiritual aspect, because we are guided by something much bigger than us, and we have to follow that lead. But for all of you just waiting for this beautiful presentation is so full of so many beautiful documents and photographs. We're going to get into Lynn's family history, Keller and the Badies family history in East Feliciana Parish in Orleans Parish, Louisiana. All right, Lynn, go ahead and tell us about this beautiful photograph in this document.
This photograph and document is over 101 years old. In November, it'd be 102 years old. This is my grandmother, Mildred Mitchell, born Mildred Mitchell. This is a baby picture of her. And she was delivered by Eliza Benton, a midwife that lived on Bourbon Street.
Mhm.
And the sum of her
Wow.
birth was for $12.
And look at what they have to Mrs. E.J. Benton, doctor.
Yes.
Look at that. And look at
Yeah.
that handwriting.
Yes.
And that's Joseph Mitchell there.
And that's my great grandfather, Mildred's father. So you think the mother is giving birth, the father is taking care of the affairs, the business
Isn't it?
aspect of it. Yeah. So he signed it.
And what is that street? 2021. Is that Benton?
Bourbon
Bourbon Street.
Street.
Yeah.
Yes. My ancestors owned homes on Bourbon Streets for many years. And it
Uh-huh.
looks like Miss Benton was a resident of Bourbon Street as well. And you can find her in the directories and everything, and later with her son in the census. But this is real important because I want to know who delivered her, who saw that her and her mother survived that birth.
Mhm. The first person to hold your grandmother. And when you show the picture of your grandmother as a baby, my grandmother was born in 1913. I wish I could see a photograph of my
Yeah.
grandmother today. So you are so blessed. Now tell us about this document.
Oh, this document here. Well, I'll share, we skip a little ahead to the archives department. We went to the, Dr. Harrell made our itinerary up for the trip. And she made sure we visit the Secretary of State Department of Vital Records, where they hold the historical documents. And on this day, I happened to be speaking to the supervisor who's working on my documents. And she told me that she was working on Mildred Louise. And I said, that's my grandmother. And I looked, and the document was an original document, because when I walked into her office, I had on my phone the baby picture that you just seen. And I said, Miss Beth, I want you to know that what you're assisting me with, this is my grandmother when she was a baby.
And it
She
just
didn't.
happened to be on her desk.
It happened to be in her office. She's been working on 1920 for the past few months. She received the original documents for New Orleans. And when I presented my documents that I wanted printed, she knew she had 1920 in her office. So she pulled out the original, had it on her desk. When I walked in, her and I just couldn't believe it, because those are stored upstairs, 3 stories up in a warehouse. A storage area.
I've been there, yes.
Yes. So I had a chance during my research to see my grandmother's 101-year-old birth certificate.
I think
It
that's when
was,
I cried. I think that when you came out with this look on your face, like you wouldn't believe this, Dr. Rell, you wouldn't believe this. Would you believe that my grandmother Mildred's birth record is on her desk?
yes.
That
I
was
couldn't,
definitely the
I couldn't
ancestor.
believe it. The day that I fly to Louisiana, she has these original documents, and she had like 4 boxes. And she said some of them, she was so scared that my document had been ruined, because some of the documents, the ink has bled through and ate up the paper. So she was hoping that my document wasn't one of them.
And it wasn't. And this is
And
it.
it wasn't. And you
And
see Joseph Mitchell there as well, just like we see on the midwife.
right. And it also says that he was a chauffeur. You see that?
Yes,
He was a
yes,
chauffeur, and they was living on Galvin Street.
yes, they were.
It was, yes, yes. This is
Yes,
awesome. This is
yes,
amazing. All right, let's go to the next slide. Oh, their stories honoring my inheritance. First of all, the dress, and I guess this is where I learned that your family was shoemakers, cigar
yes,
makers. That's why she has these fancy tailor-made shoes just for her, huh?
yes. Her father was Alfred Decodro. Her mother was Marie Day, and he was a shoemaker. And her parents married in 1852 in the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans. And they were born in 1835, but married in 1852. And you can follow them through the directories throughout New Orleans up until their death. But he was a shoemaker,
That's
and they
beautiful.
were seamstress. So she is the
Oh,
youngest sister to my great great grandmother, Natalie Decadro Pierre, that's behind me. She's her younger sister.
wow. So the family probably are the ones who made that dress if she didn't make that dress
Absolutely.
herself.
Yes, they were seamstress, and my grandmother was also a seamstress.
So that explains it. That explains it. All right.
And this is where my roots started in East Feliciana. Well, it's not where it started, but because we go further back than them, and I was able to retrieve marriage records from my grandmother, Julia Badies' side. Her grandfather, Isaac Butler, I was able, and Lucinda Douglas, I was able to retrieve their marriage records from 1852 while we were there.
Mm.
I'm
And
sorry, 1867.
and it looked like this photograph of John was taken from a headstone.
It is. He's in.
Mhm.
He's buried in DeQuincy, Louisiana.
Okay.
Yes, and so this is John and Julia, and this is my grandmother and my grandfather. Julia is my grandfather George's mother. This is right after their wedding. So this is considered their wedding photo. They was just 23 and 21 years old, 1941.
Look how
And
well dressed, and look at that purse that she have. So,
yeah,
and you see some of those purses coming back today, and a lot of times the young people with the fashions, they think they're making a fashion statement. The statement was made before
it
them.
was made. You cannot reinvent this wheel. They did
That's
it.
right. That's right. And this is your grandfather with the
On the
card.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was in Louisiana prior to moving to California.
Okay. Mhm.
And this is my grandmother, Mildred. And this was in Louisiana prior to moving to California as well.
Do you think it was in New Orleans or maybe East Feliciana somewhere?
I think his is in East Feliciana and hers is in New Orleans.
Okay. I love this photograph.
This is a photograph of my dad and my grandfather, George Keller. And he was born in East Feliciana, but this is them in 1943 in San Francisco when they migrated west.
From New Orleans to
To
West.
Yeah, to San Francisco. They had a short stint there. They said it was too cold. Then they moved down to Southern California, to Compton, California.
Okay. In 1943, that was the exodus for them.
That was the exodus for them. And this is them beginning their new life in California. They belong to a social club in California, and it was made up of natives of Louisiana. And so they had a group of them, and you'll see that there. They love to go to ballrooms and dress up and do their thing there. So I have over, and I keep saying 800 because I know 800 scanned, but there are many that are not scanned. So I have many, many pictures.
Oh my God. I could only imagine what someone who are researching family history, their family history would feel to inherit over 800 photographs. It would just be something you couldn't even imagine. So I can understand that excitement that you have. Oh, this is the Louisiana 24 Club.
Yes, that's
look
the
at
Louisiana.
The women and look at the men all dressed.
Yes, and this is on a separate occasion because the men had jeans and tops like the women at the bottom there. And at the top, the women would be dressed when the men are in their tux, and they're called the Louisiana 24.
Yeah. So was it mostly friends and family or just people who moved to that area in California?
I think it's a combination, but mainly people who moved from Louisiana to California. And they were really big on keeping their Louisiana roots and sticking together. And this club went on for many years.
And I can really see that because it's like, okay, they're from home, and so when someone moves somewhere, it's like, okay, that's my home girl. That's my, I know them. And so that's understandable. Look at that. I like this picture as well.
Oh, yes. Beautiful picture. And
they probably helped each other out a lot. They supported each other. It was like a family. Although it was a club, but it became something as a family as well.
Oh, yes. One day we're just going to have to go through the pictures because you see them in the 1940s and 50s in front of old record stores. Yeah. And they're all hanging out by their car. It is just amazing to see those. And so here are some pictures again of my grandparents, Mildred and George. And through the years. And at the bottom, it's their 50th anniversary there, and there they are holding that wedding photo that you see on the left.
Isn't that something, huh? The way we see the photograph in the album, and then there they are with that same, it's just beautiful.
It is, to be able to preserve these records for a time such as this.
Yes. Researching in East Feliciana Parish, Louisiana. Okay, all right. This is some of your journey, and you came with your with your camouflage. You was ready. Ancestor hunting is exactly what you was on. You was on a mission.
I was on a mission. I said, I'm going on the hunt today. I'm going to be looking for my ancestors, and I'm not going to return void. And
you called them and they came. And when I tell you, it's like when you call their name, they're waiting to be found. Yes. They want you to find them. And it's like when you call them, okay, we heard you, we're coming, and it's just a beautiful opportunity. So here you're standing at the library.
Yes.
And we certainly would like to give the staff over there at the Ottoman Region Library in Clinton, Louisiana, a
Yes.
shout out because she was very helpful.
Yeah, Miss Peggy was very helpful. And one of the things I want to share before we move to this picture
Mhm.
is that I have the second grade report card of my grandfather. He was born in 1918. So this is about 1924, 25. I have that from East Feliciana. So I wanted to learn, where did they go to school back then? Maybe
Mhm.
I can visit that site. And the library was so helpful because they were able to show me a book where a judge wrote about the colored schools back in the day. And that helped me with my research. So that was very helpful for you to take me over there to the library.
Yeah, the library is a place, the local library, one of the places that I always advise people who are looking for their family history to visit the local library, visit the courthouse, visit the graveyards, go drive around in those areas, go to the museum, talk with people. You know, you're on a mission, you are a detective. So, you know,
Yes,
you're looking for clues, you know.
yes,
And when the book that you're holding is the marriage records, and that was book number 3 from 1866 to 1871, and it was a colored book. So
yes.
everybody in that book was African American people.
And
So that made it easy.
that's where I found Isaac and
Uh-huh.
Linda Douglas.
It was
My,
exciting.
yeah, so it's exciting to hold that book, knowing that they were recorded in there.
And I want to just point out to everyone that we only spend, I probably would say, we probably arrived there about 9:30 or something like that, or 10 o'clock, something like that.
Yes,
And by 4 o'clock, we had accomplished so much that it would have took somebody almost 2 weeks if
yes,
they went on their own to do that.
yes. It was
And that's, go ahead.
it was important for me to follow your lead. I didn't come there with this notion of what I'm going to do. Every direction you gave me, I followed and it yielded fruit. And
Yes.
that was so important, because I'm a very detailed person and I like to have a schedule, but
Mhm.
I set that schedule down. And wherever you directed me, I went and I found so much. I retrieved way more than I had expected on a first journey.
Well, I'm so happy, and that smile on your face at the Louisiana
Oh,
State Archives says it all. It's like,
goodness.
okay, I'm happy. I found what I'm looking for. You know, my ancestors spoke, and you was getting that information in.
Oh, yes. It was a beautiful experience. And even the clerk of the court in East Feliciana, she was so shocked I found that many documents.
Yes,
Could
she
not
was.
believe I found that many documents. But not only that, Louisiana State Archives, Secretary of State was surprised as well.
Wow, wow. And I want to point out something after we go through this presentation. This is by far my, I love these photographs. I love that you went to the cemetery, Mount Olive Cemetery in New Orleans, and paid homage to your ancestors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was important for me.
What does the inscription say at the very bottom? I can see there looks like there is a headstone on the ground, and there's one at the lower, and it says something at the top. What is that saying? Do you know? Can you remember?
Josephine Barbarian is at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Louis Day Day is in the middle, and Peter Mitchell is at the bottom.
Okay, so there's a headstone for each person that's in there.
No, there are multiples in there. And the Catholic
Oh,
Cemetery was able to give me a printout of who all is interred there. And there may be some that are missing, but there's quite a few in there. So this is the first time I was able to visit Natalie's grave. Natalie
Oh,
is in there.
really?
Natalie is in there, my great-great-grandmother Natalie, and her daughter, you can't see her there, she's behind me, Hortensia
She's in.
Pierre Mitchell. She's in there with her mother.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yes, and this was the first time I was able to visit their grave.
Oh, I can only imagine the energy that was flowing through you and what you was feeling to
I didn't
actually
want to
be
leave.
there.
I didn't want to leave. I really did not want to leave. I could have stayed there that entire day, but not only that, I got to visit Alexander Pierre, which is Natalie's husband. He's across the street at St. Louis #2. I got to visit his. He was
Is
a
that
Mason.
here when you're kneeling down?
No, that is
Oh,
another set of grandparents.
really?
That is Mildred's father is in Mount Olive and his mother. So
Okay.
Mildred's grandmother, which is my great great, yes, is in there. She died in 1940.
You accomplished a lot while you was here.
Yes.
And we would definitely like to give a special thanks to the Audubon Regional Library in Clinton, Louisiana. A shout out to the librarian that helped us. Thank you. East Feliciana Clerk of Court in East Feliciana Parish, Clinton, Louisiana is where the courthouse is at. Bet Davis, archivist, supervisor of vital records, the Louisiana State Archives. Nurturing Our Roots, and Dine Wilson. Thank
Yeah.
you all for making this a very successful trip because we could not have done it without them. Let me just say this here for you in regards of your research. I don't like for someone to call up on my services and leave empty-handed. I never know, and I do want to say how prepared you were. That played a major part too, because I know it wasn't easy for you to get on the flight. And you said this, you said, look, I could have had it electronically on my phone and that, but I like to see my paper spread it out.
That's right.
So you
I'm
came,
old school.
you came, and because you are old school and you had those documents, it made it very easy, because sometimes, when some young people come, they have the phone and they're like, okay, okay, I can't pull it up. I can't pull it up. And they don't get as much as they would like to get. So sometimes you do have to let the paper speak for itself.
And that preparation was important. And I need to go back to what also made my journey a success was prior to arriving, you had me pull those death records. They
Yes.
showed the volume and the page number. So when I arrived, I couldn't do the microfilm. My eyes wouldn't let me. And plus I was just overwhelmed with excitement. So I was able to hand it over to the clerks. They pulled them up for me. And that really helped me retrieve. Now, I received 4 envelopes yesterday.
4?
4 envelopes sitting right here at my
Oh my
desk.
God.
I left with 20 documents and received 4 envelopes just yesterday. Not to mention the 56 I left in hand from East Feliciana. So 93 total from the state archives.
That was a happy, happy hunt.
Yeah.
And we're looking at a marriage record, right?
We're looking at a marriage record from East Feliciana. Even though Family Search had the record, it didn't have something very important. Brian Keller is my great-great-grandfather who was murdered.
Oh.
And the newspaper lists him. However, it didn't have Louis' maiden name. So now I have a Parker line in which I can follow. Also, I could not confirm who Brian parents were. I do have a Tim and Charity Keller in my tree, but I really have nothing to confirm it. I found him in the census, the only Brian with Tim and Charity. However, if you scroll down, you'll see his brother
Oh, okay.
as a witness.
Okay.
There you see. And Tom McNeely married Brian's sister. This document told me so much, right? From the witnesses. So Tom McNeely married Brian's sister, Lucy. Later, I see his mother, Charity, living with Tom and Lucy and the kids. Pinkney here, Keller, that I'm looking at, he was a witness. That confirms that census that I have is connecting the dots to him. He's a Keller. He's the brother of Brian. And I can't make out that last name.
I know.
That first name.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see. It looks like Moley. Moley?
Yes. And so I've yet to find out who he is. But I learned so much from just this one document alone. It can solidify my tree in so many ways. But not only that, finding Louise Parker's maiden name. Now I have found her with her parents in the census. And so
now, I want to point out too that Don's grandmother was her married name was Parker. Yes, so that's something, because his grandmother, we always call her Mother Parker, and she was a Parker. Now, this is the document what is this? This is that document that you was happy to look at, the succession documents, right?
Yes. This document here.
Oh, yeah.
If you scroll down, it talks about his firstborn child, which is Fanny. She was already in my tree. These are confirmed ancestors. However, it opened up the door to who she was married to, who her children, who their children were. So if I find me matching a cousin, which I did, I found a Badies. He's in New Jersey. His name is Kevin Badies. We DNA matches on Ancestry. He's a high DNA match to me. He's a high DNA match to my dad. And now, because I have the siblings and their children, I'll be able to assist him who finding out who Samuel's father was and who James' father was, because now I have all the Badies that I need to do that research. So it's not just about me, it's about my relatives and descendants, and even people that's just fascinated with genealogy. Share with anyone.
I want to point out, if you look at number 2, John Badies married 3 times. So
3 times.
That's a lot of great information first to Minerva Hayes, who died, and of this marriage, 5 children was born, 3 boys, 2 girls, and they named them.
Yes.
Named them. So let me go back up last. Trying to go.
And Saunders was named after the grandfather, Crit's father.
And look, Ophelia Badies Bennett, wife of Robert Bennett, no children born, none adopted, but she died tested as shown in the succession of Ophelia. So it gave you a lot of information. Who they married to, how many children. I was really so happy to find this document. You just don't know. I couldn't hold it. I really couldn't hold it.
And yes, and Dr. Harrell discovered this document. I didn't. I was busy in the marriage, but she knew where to go. She knew what to look for. So it is just so important to have somebody on the grounds with you that is serious about your cause, because she don't play and I don't play. So guess what that did? That yielded fruit.
That yields a lot of great fruit, because the entire time that we was writing, people may not even realize this. We didn't talk about anything too much outside of this research because that was very important for me to get to know your ancestors through you,
Yeah.
to feel your energy too. Your energy was just as important because I know in order for me to give all of myself, I had to feel all of you.
Yes. Yes.
Just
Yes.
how bad do you want it? I
Oh,
knew you wanted it real bad anytime you made the arrangements to fly here, to do the research, to go through all of that. I knew that you were serious about your research, you
oh
know,
yeah.
and riding around Clinton, just looking at some of the historical buildings, some of the
Yes.
historical sites, and just because both of us, our ancestors are in East Feliciana.
Yes. And in the book, I found some Horrells in the
Hmm.
marriage books.
Yes, yes.
So that's something we have to go back and revisit. But now I get to look at the land. Now I get to go back and find out where the school was for the colors, right? It's so much I get to do. I get to, go back and look at more Badies because there were so many that I didn't
Mhm.
print out.
I
So
know.
now, yes, and I can connect the dots now. But
Yes. Yes.
also, one of the things when you visit the sites, you want to make sure you grab some soil from that site. That's really
That was
important.
spiritual, wasn't it?
It's very spiritual. I brought some soil home, and it
Hmm.
was right beyond the sign of you going into Clinton, East Feliciana. So they had to pass there to come out, right? And I got that soil, and it's important to have that, to know they tilled those grounds. And even if it's not that particular ground, this is where they live. This is where they farm. This is where you can find them for many years.
This is where they
Many.
conduct their business.
This is where they conduct their business. The
Mhm.
courthouse.
This is what
Going.
they had to go into for marriage records,
Yeah.
filing documents. That you know that they was there. You're walking in the shadows, in the footprints of your ancestors, so you know that they was there.
It was beautiful. And I encourage anyone that takes a heritage trip like this, stand by those trees. Those trees been there for years.
Oh, yes.
Stand by those trees, and just really walk the grounds. Go with intention, not just to say, I went. Go with intention and really be diligent about your research. Pay attention to your schedule. Get up on time. Get your rest. You know,
Those
save
are great tips.
that's right.
Great tips.
Save the tourism for when you're done, when that's complete, because you'll miss out.
Mm.
Otherwise, make sure you eat. So when you go, you're not, ready to leave because you're hungry. All those things played a part in our trip. And I mean, each evening was full. And I thank you.
And we want to point out too that the day that we was there researching, we didn't even stop and take a lunch break because one, we had our coffee, so I felt
Mhm.
like we was on drive, and we was getting full of researching,
Yes.
processing, hunting, calling,
Mhm.
you know, um, calling their names,
Yes.
just lifting them up. So it was very spiritual for the both of us, especially since both of us have a connection
Yes.
to East Feliciana.
Yeah.
And when you come back the next time, because the parish was, uh, Feliciana was divided between the East and the West. And as the librarian said to us, she said that some records could have remained in
Yes.
West Feliciana. So therefore, we must
We must.
go to West Feliciana just to do a name search, a surname search, to
Yes.
see if the Badies, if any of them, any of the records stayed over there, or if any of them lived in that area, moved there.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to the second trip. And I
Yes.
want to encourage anyone that's serious about their history. I want to encourage you to invest your coins in things that matter.
And
Because
your time.
yes, and your time, you will be so fulfilled walking away from this. When
Mm,
you know that you've paid homage, when you know that you've honored their name, you're going to walk away fulfilled. And not only that, equipped to stand and carry that torch. It's a difference.
yes, it
It's,
is.
it's like no other. And I know, and don't bring along anyone that don't have that same energy as you.
Please don't.
I don't care if it's 6 of you guys. If it's two that got to show up, may it be that two.
And let
Because
the other four go somewhere else and go and visit, do what they want to do. But we just don't need the energy like, okay, how long are you all going to be?
oh,
How, what's next, uh, because that really, really annoy the energy that's floating to
yes,
find your ancestors.
absolutely. And my family will be coming back with me in June, but they won't be on my research with me. They'll be
Mm-hmm.
back at the house or the hotel, and I have things set up for them. Or when they fly in, my research will be done. I
Yes.
can't, it's very important, and you don't want a wasted trip because you didn't properly prepare. I also looked at other videos and webinars on how to prepare for your research. So I'm not a burden to Dr. Harrell, that
Mhm.
she has to carry me every step of the way because I didn't properly prepare. So I pulled those tools out and I was just ready,
Yeah.
ready to go. And that was important to my success. And some people may say, oh, you can't have that many ancestors. I can show you original documents I have with their names on it. I have
And
certified documents with their
I was
name.
about to say that. I wanted you to really speak about that because you not only you didn't walk out of there with just a copy, you had them certified. May I ask you, why did you certify so many records? Give us the purpose why you did that.
Not only am I direct descendant of those that I certified, right? I'll give you an example. I'm restoring the gravesite of one of my ancestors, Natalie and Hortensia. I have to, in handling business or affairs, you
Mm-hmm.
want that to be a legal document, not something printed from Family Search
Thank you.
or an index from Ancestry. And this allowed me to have it certified by the state of Louisiana. And on each line, I can tell you how I am a descendant. And because my grandmother kept such good record, and I have handwritten accounts of her records, not only that, World War I
Mhm.
documents, so much. I have a paper trail to start with. So that opened a door. And another thing, the obituaries
Mhm.
really open a door to help you build to help you build your tree. The succession, you can't even get better than that. That's a legal document
Mhm.
that shows so much. And so you really want to prepare prior to coming, one, and two, certify those that you come under that line. They're going to be in a sleeve or archival sleeve. Anyone that comes behind me don't have to do this again.
Mhm. Mhm.
They
And
don't.
that's very important. That's
Yeah.
very important. It's one thing that you have the photographs, but now you have,
Mhm.
certified records to go with it. And I can really see a very powerful book that can come from you. I've been thinking about those 800 pictures that you've been talking about. I can see a pictorial book that would
Oh,
be
sure. Mhm.
priceless for Orleans Parish or East Feliciana, and certainly, and as you can see that there is still a lack of African American research materials and books on the shelves in many libraries, and we have to do something about that. You
Yeah,
know, we really do, because
absolutely.
um, it's our story. You have to tell your story, and then you have to make sure you document it and market your story. Whatever you're gonna do, you just have to do it.
Yes. And I often share with people, this is not just for me. There are other descendants besides me. And if I'm the one that's called to go forth and to put in this time and this money and this energy, which is a pleasure for me, it is a
Mhm.
pleasure to be able to honor them in this way because they had to endure in
So,
order for me to be here
mhm,
today. It's not something to take lightly.
exactly.
They had to endure for me
Mhm.
to be able to sit and talk, visit their land today. So I want to honor them. But not only that, whoever is in my family can also benefit from my research. Their children can have,
Mhm.
copies of this. It's not just for me. And yes, all the pictures were left to me,
Mhm.
given to me, some by my grandmother and the rest by my father. And so, how do I honor them? I don't want to tuck them away for nobody to see.
Right. It's like tucking them away back in, on in some vault, in a file cabinet, never to be talked about again. No. We have to spend that time with our family, with the young people in our family, educating them about their ancestors, talking about the land that they purchased, if they had military duties,
Yeah,
if they was business people like your family, shoemakers, um, cigar makers,
yeah,
family. I am so proud of my grandfather being a farmer and a
yeah,
carpenter, because each time now when I plant something, and
yeah,
I plant my food, my vegetables, I harvest the vegetables, and then when I'm coming inside with them and I'm preparing them to cook, I always think about that gift. There's not a time that I am not in my garden that
yeah.
I don't think about my ancestors. I feel like my grandfather, his brother, my Uncle Palmer Harrell is right there because they was farmers.
Now, isn't that something? Because when you discover who they are, you'll discover who you are.
Exactly.
My brother is a tailor
Is
and he
he,
loves to sew. He never knew that his ancestors were seamstress, generation and generation of
without even knowing, until we do the
when-
research?
until you do the research. And
Mhm.
so he is amazed. He has a sewing machine from 1926.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's the era when they were sewing,
Mm-hmm.
all of them. And
Mm-hmm.
so here he has this gift, not knowing where it came from. Like you talk about the gift of gardening. I love greenery and trees. So I plant all the time. I mean, to where I can't plant no more.
Mm-hmm.
And where does it come from? Critting them on 84
Yes,
acres.
yes,
They
yes.
had to tend to that land. They had
Mm-hmm.
to tend.
Cultivated.
Yes, cultivate it. So you learn about who you are when you learn about who they were. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to get discouraged if you don't find 93 records in one place and 56. I don't want you to get discouraged.
If you find 10,
If you find two,
5,
honor
that's
the
right.
two that you have, lift them up and keep their legacy alive.
Exactly.
Carry that torch for them today. Let them know and everyone around that their lives matter, right? You want that to be seen. You want their heartbeat to still pump today in you.
You think about, I like this saying that my ancestors' lives matter. Our
Mhm.
ancestors' lives matter, because if it wasn't for them being strong, resilient,
Oh
with
my.
legacy, I feel that too often we dishonor them by not learning, talking about them. We can, most people, they can sit around and talk about celebrities. They know their children's name, they know the husband, the mother and father, but they can't tell you the name of their grandmother or great grandmother or great uncle. And it's such a dishonor. It
It
really, really is. And people may not even realize what they're missing out on because they don't know.
because
And genealogy is the science of the study of family history. But as you said just now, Lynn, it's you who you really learn about when you learn about your ancestors.
you learn about it. And that strength, you will develop a strength that you couldn't just do on your own. Once you see what they endured, and to be able to see their names, and just taking that drive to see how far they had to go to get to New Orleans, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
but just this is where I get that from. This is where. And Natalie is one of my inspirations because she was the matriarch. Even when someone would marry her daughter or her granddaughter, they had to come into her home. She remained the head on the census till she couldn't remain the head no more. Where did she get that from? I have a letter written to her in 1952, a year before she died. She was born in 1865. In 1952 is a letter written to her from my grandfather. I have that letter. So he didn't go to his wife's mother. He went to the grandmother
Yes.
to address his concerns. She
Yes.
was the matriarch, and that's
Yes.
why she sits behind my back today.
Oh, wow. Well, this has been a great hour. And thank you once again, Lynn, for sharing so much with us. And this is what this segment is all about, exploring that rich history, undocumented history for the most part, of African Americans in the Louisiana, Florida parishes. Our Zoom session has come to an end for tonight. I hope that everyone who joined us have learned something new. We have inspired you to want to do your family research. If you have any stories or information that you would like to share to be a guest on this show, please email me at nurturingourroots@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story. And please like and subscribe to this channel, because this is not where the celebrities come. This is where the everyday people who have beautiful stories to share. And we thank you, Lynn, for answering the call from your ancestors to do what you are doing.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And thanks, everyone. I will certainly like to announce that I'm going to be working on trying to get Louis Ali to join us on the next Zoom session, because we had a great research trip in Amite County, Mississippi, where Lynn's Rosses end up in Amite
Yes.
County, Mississippi.
Yes.
All right. And next week, I want to say this before we leave. There will be a woman come on next week. Her name is Lorraine, and Lorraine Dima Lozana. She will come on and talk about her family history right here in Tangipahoa Parish, which is the Urban's family history. She has a lot to share. So please tune in next Tuesday on the 29th, because we want to hear from Lorraine. Thank you, Lynn, for being a guest.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you, Dr.